But let's switch gears to a team. You mentioned markets and all that. This is a team that I guess I call them a big market team, but they have some issues that other teams will have to deal with free agency, which would be the Toronto Blue Jays, right? I mean, they're going to be in some big sweepstakes, but at the same time, not everybody is willing to move their family to Canada, so they got to deal with that issue. But they put together a team that I don't think any of us expected to be what they are, surely coming off of last year. This is a team that's been in the playoffs in recent memory, but it's not like last year they were outstanding. As we record this, 2 games up in the AL East, hitting like crazy, 8th in the OPS. The pitching hasn't necessarily been there, although they're striking a lot of guys out. 14 under 500 last year. Veteran rotation, Barrios, Bassett, Gausman, all guys in their 30s. But this infield in particular, and let's call Addison Barger an infielder, although he does a little bit of everything. That's what's got you excited from talking to you.
Yeah, the complete way in which this roster is built and contributing right now. I think Fangraphs does a really interesting thing. I don't have the ability to screen share right now, but they do a power ranking of where does this player rank overall and where does he rank in the last 7 days. It's this little 2 columns that immediately gives you a snapshot of that player's rank in the game overall and then zooms into the last 7 days. And I think what you're seeing with the Blue Jays is a lot of guys whose names don't equal $100 million. They got the George Springer, they got the Vladdy, they got the Bichette, but there are guys like Addison Barger. You look at his overall ranking, 120 over the last 7 days, number 26. Oof. So like playing like the 26th best player in baseball over the last 7 days. George Springer also playing like a top 20 player in that. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., top 25 overall, playing like a number 55 player. So you have these stackings of players that are providing now value, helping you make this push right now. And it's coming from a lot of their support is coming from their system. I think they got something underrated happening with their player development pipeline, especially as it relates to position players coming in and impacting the major league club. But you're getting performances from guys like, we don't talk about Joey Loperfido very much on this, on this show, but performing in a top 150 player range when he's usually in a 448 range. So something's happening in terms of the preparation for guys coming in and contributing at the big league level, and shows me that there's a few ways you can piece winning major league teams together. It's not just star-driven baseball. They got a guy, Ernie Clement, who's their second in WAR, and you look at his distribution, and he's stacking up so much defensive and base running value that he's coming up second in WAR in a lineup with Bichette, George Springer, and Vladdy Jr. And we haven't talked about Kirk, which can always talk about Alejandro Kirk, especially on the defensive side of things right now. Never thought I would be saying that, Dan.
Maybe Agustin Ramirez will say it one day. Yeah. That'd be nice.
But they even have contributions. Tyler Heineman in the last 7 days is playing like a top 21 player in baseball. Tyler Heineman, I don't know if you remember, was traded from the Diamondbacks to the Marlins.
I do.
Because we needed catcher depth desperately.
For like 10 games. It was like a short amount of time.
And it was a trade for, I don't even know what it was for. I think it was for $1, or it was one of those trades that go for, because he was on the kind of the downslope of his career. But then you could go to another place, and he's had a few good runs with different teams since. Shout out to Tyler Heineman. I think he's also a magician, performs in the clubhouse there. But then he can bounce back later on at 34 years old, right, and have this like productive run for a team that could then secure him another 1-year deal next year, a 2-year deal after that. So they're getting performances from guys like that and piecing a roster together in a way, like in a division with the Yankees, Red Sox, and Rays all being good. And they're 2 games up right now. So there's something going on in Toronto that I think we've been due to talk about. And they're getting really stable, if not elite performances from their starting pitching. So like, while it's not like a name driven rotation, there's 5 guys in that rotation where you feel like you could go to war with and win a major league game with every night. And those are pretty good odds too.
Let me ask you this, because we've been talking about this in the context of the trade deadline, just kind of always scouting not only other teams' professional organizations, the minors, the majors, but also knowing your own guys and their value. You know, there's a guy like Zach Gallen who comes on very quick. You're just learning him as a major league starter, and then he's dealt. So obviously you put a value on him pretty quickly as an organization. Even though he had just come up, you didn't say, hey, let's wait and see. Say, this is where we think he's at. Let's go acquire this. Addison Barger. So This is somebody who you look at the profile on paper. You say, okay, he's a 6th-round pick out of high school in Tampa, Florida. He was drafted in 2018, now breaking out in his mid-20s.
By the Blue Jays?
Yes, by the Blue Jays.
Okay.
Still young, but
not a trade, a homegrown player.
Homegrown player, but not like a surging prospect. This is a guy that took a long time, right?
Yep.
So I don't think he was treated like some sort of blue chip prospect throughout, because he wasn't. I mean, he would have been up by now, right? But now he's up, and you look at the tool set. Just pulling up his Baseball Savant page. Bat speed, 94th percentile. Arm strength, and he plays third base and outfield.
This guy takes hacks.
100th percentile. The exit velo, all that stuff. Hard hit. I mean, outstanding. Plus, he can run okay. When you get a guy like this who his career, I don't want to say journeyman, that's not the right word, but his career says, not like a surging, tooled up prospect. But now he's at the major league level, and he's using those tools effectively. Like, how does that does the evaluation change really fast? Like, hey, we thought he was this, but now he's this, and we're treating him like this. And if you come on asking about him, we're treating him like, some first overall pick that can throw like rocket and do all these things. How quickly does that evaluation change with somebody like this that was not a predestined blue chipper like a Roman Anthony, for example?
I think these are the great stories in baseball. These are all the kind of players that aren't in that elite tiering. Like, there's always these stories of like drafted in 2018, your impact in the big leagues doesn't come until the year 2025. That's a long arc, right? And especially the high school kid, I think, has a really steep uphill climb. I think the international kid has that even steeper from further away upper climb. It's just you don't get the development now that, like, if this happened, if he goes to one of those premier Power 4 schools and like develops, like maybe he gets there quicker than this, right? But the professional baseball journey for a high school player is tough. It's like you have to really, really hit as a position player, as an offensively driven player, and that doesn't come early. And the unfortunate thing is, most of the time, you run out of time with a prospect, or somebody's asking for him when you see something, you have fatigue for him, like the Luzardo, and their trajectories aren't linear on the way up. There are valleys to this. There can be peaks early, and then you can hit a AA wall where, like, okay, everything that worked for you up until high A works, and now all of a sudden in AA it doesn't. So you can hit these walls and stall out as a prospect, but then, I don't know, organization changes hitting coordinators, and all of a sudden, like, biomechanically you're unlocked in some way, or swing decision wise you're unlocked in some way, and you could take now the tools that you were drafted for have a way to be leveraged in a way that it didn't happen for you at 19, 20, 21, for whatever million reasons. You got hurt, throw an injury into this mix, and it starts to make more sense. And that happens often as well. But here it just feels like it's things like this on the margins, I'd say, that can also happen for you as a team when you do have your position player core of other guys, right? And Addison Barger, I also just like watching him this high. It's a very high effort swing, but also he's just killing fastballs right now. It seems he's killing right-handed pitching, and I think he's just found a real niche for himself in this lineup. And then, we can go through the position players, but they're also, that bullpen is really interesting, really well constructed. You got Brendon Little is ranked the #1 player in all of baseball over the last 7 days.
100th percentile in whiff rate. You got 13.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. And you look at I don't know if you have Savant up, but like, I don't see much four seam use whatsoever. 20-year-old left-hander or 28-year-old left-hander from UNC. I mean, I don't, maybe they're calling his four seamer. I mean, they're putting his fastball as a cutter, basically. That's the fastball he's using. And then it seems like the predominant pitch in this equation, that knuckle curveball, also the sinker and a cutter. I don't see a four-seamer in the mix there for what he's throwing. Again, this is not TrackMan. We're just going off Baseball Savant. But it seems like his mix is quite unusual for somebody that's creating this kind of whiff rate.
It is. And I think what's interesting here as well, as I go back through the timeline, this is a trade with the Dodgers in 24, I think. No, purchased out for cash, a trade for cash from the Cubs in November of 2023. So like, first of all, how you acquire the player, it's not just about developing them yourselves, but also kind of acquiring, I don't want to call them distressed assets, but like things that are not carrying the value. In order for you to get traded for cash considerations, those are usually want players in those situations. And he probably didn't provide a whole lot of financial relief there. I would have to look, but really interesting that, at 28, 29, you can emerge to a moment where you're among the best pitchers in baseball for a moment. Relievers have these moments, and they're more short-lived. There are guys that could really have. Nick Anderson had a really hot moment, and I think Brendon Little's having a hot moment. And those are the things you need to have happen to be in the position the Blue Jays are in. But like, to have your lefty matchup guy be in the 100th percentile in whiff rate, chase rate, K rate, and ground ball, that's Tanner Scott in his like premium, deadline. This is what his thing read like.
Throwing 93 instead of 100 or 99, what Tanner Scott was pumping at times.
Yeah, and I think that the value of you missing on the bottom end of the barrel is like, especially if you can get whiffs. If you can get whiffs and people to hit the ball on the ground, what other outcome?
Yeah.
You can't hit a homer on the ground. So like, if it's getting through as a singer. So anything that contact is being made on, it's usually going on the ground. In the big leagues, high percentage of times, that's an out. And getting whiff rate. So it's like, if this guy just needs to, if he throws strikes, then a good outcome is going to happen. And I think the Blue Jays have found a pocket to use them where, results speak for themselves, but also know how hard it is at any moment to be the number one player in the power ranking of Major League Baseball. Like, that's the week you just had.
Insane.
And that, if you can do that, then elite level big league performance is turning that into 4 weeks out of the year, 5 weeks out of the year. Because if you do that, and that's why the big leagues is amazing. You can come up and find the right pocket, find the right moment, right team, right time. Or Trace Thompson with the Dodgers. That's a really good one. Like, he would be out of baseball for certain pockets of time. And then he's a lefty masher at the deadline, positioned perfectly only against lefties. And he comes in and makes himself millions of dollars with a good postseason run or a good short stretch to get you into the postseason. So I deviated a little bit, but their bullpen needs a lot of shout outs as well. Tommy Nance is sitting in this bullpen. Remember, former Marlin Tommy Nance, acquired in a smaller deal as well. Now pitching like number 25 reliever in all of baseball over the course of the last week. And then you trade at 34 years old. So the bullpen's really interesting because it's this amalgamation, this collection of misfit toys, that you can make work together. Remember Adam Simber?
Yes.
Adam Simber was a really interesting part of a bullpen. I said Yimi Garcia earlier. These guys that when you piece it together, you can build a really interesting bullpen with pieces that don't recognize or register with the average fan, for example. Then there's the Edwin Diaz. You can do that too.
Right.
I'd rather do that. And then Jeff Hoffman. They paid for that reliever, and he's performed like one of the better relievers in baseball. Not in the last week, but overall. And
then from the starting rotation, you look at Yadiel Rodriguez from Camagüey, Cuba, 29 years old, right-handed pitcher. So similar age, different side, whole different arsenal than Brendon Little. 1 day as a starter last year, now in the pen, fastball averaging 96. But what you see here is the slider, 96 percentile average run value. So, the profile, I don't say it's conventional, but, fastball, slider, right-hander, good velocity.
But what is conventional? That's a good way. Fastball, slider.
Yeah. So with Yadiel, you scouted him, the player. What stands out to you?
Good characteristics of the fastball with enough strikes to play over the zone. So he's got to me, it's like an above average fastball with movement and velocity. So if you sit 96, throw strikes with a fastball that doesn't have to have elite movement at that point. You can have average movement at that velocity and have that play up, especially if you could command it. If you can command it, then, that's plenty of velocity to do whatever you need. It's really interesting, though, that you see guys getting more effective wedged into bullpen roles. And some guys can't get through a lineup 3 times. It's a hard thing to do in big league baseball, especially in this case. If you're to be a starter, you really need that third pitch to feature. And if it's not a feature pitch for you, you can't pitch like in a bullpen role, it's easier to be more effective in a 2-pitch grip and rip. Like, I'm a fastball slider guy. This is how we're going to go. And this is where my bread is buttered and pitched that way. As a starter, you can't do that. Like, you as a righty need to have a changeup against a lefty if you want to really get through lineups. If not, he'll box you into fastball breaker. And I know where you throw those two. And the changeup is always the keep you off timing wise. This way, out horizontal, but out front and back, which is, where pitchers are also trying to get you off. And so that's what stands out to me here, like a lot of strikes or enough strikes at a high velocity with a really good breaking ball. Like, and here's where I'd say it's an example of the fastball setting up the breaking ball. Therefore, the breaking ball seeming more effective. But to me, this is a guy whose breaking ball is made effective by the use of his fastball as well. It's not just like it's good in a vacuum and it's going to be good no matter what. The way you tunnel pitches, I think, is important too. The way the pitches play off of each other. And so even though the fastball doesn't get much love, the fastball is performing as well, just not at the elite level that the breaking ball. And this is like a guy like with 2 strikes, he has somewhere to go with that. With a pitch, he has an area of the plate to go to, which is down and away slider with an effective slider. So I'm seeing how he gets there for sure.
Yeah, be curious to see what these guys do at the deadline because you have injuries. Dalton Varsho, center field, coming back. Anthony Santander with the shoulder. That update was kind of ugly. Still not swinging. They're being reevaluated. You don't like to hear that word, the reevaluation word. I hope it's nothing bad because this guy was so fun to watch. Probably the best player I saw at the WBC back in 2023 before he had his breakout season. He was the best player on the field with the best players in the world in the Venezuela-Dominican game and some others. Andres Jimenez, another Venezuelan dealing with an ankle injury. Yimi Garcia, shoulder, ankle, elbow. So they got a lot of guys banged up and they're doing this anyways. I don't know if that dictates, hey, let's wait till our guys come back. We don't need a trade. We're going to get them back or how that works.
That's a great point. So like you're also, here comes the medical side to all this.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about the trade deadline and a lot about the amateur draft. We didn't spend nearly enough time on the medical evaluation of things that need to get sussed out to complete a deal. So your trainer becomes your head trainer, whoever leads up your medical services in the lead up to a deadline, is busy as ever playing major league games, but also filtering out and assessing like in real time too. You have to be available the day of the deadline because you can agree to a deal in principle to have it fall apart in medical review.
Oh yeah.
So like that's a whole thing that doesn't get spoken about. And I'm glad we arrived there because now you're asking a more kind of a medically timed question. So you're asking your medical side, what are aggressive, realistic, and pessimistic timelines for each of these cases? Because if you have an optimistic timeline for Anthony Santander, you don't want to go make a big trade in his direction only to know he's coming back. So how good is your medical right now? And how true is what they're telling you? Guys regress sometimes in deals or in their progression. So this is a tricky one, how they throttle this. I think they can feel less aggressive to make a trade if they feel optimistic about the return to play timelines of Jimenez, Varsho, Santander, especially. Can't believe they're doing all of this without Santander. So it feels like they could be getting trade deadline acquisitions just by getting guys back. And then there's Yimi Garcia, Nick Sandlin. I like Blue Jays is a bit of a dark horse candidate for me in a second half run here. So I'm glad we're finally arriving at talking about them.
Very popular team too. I mean, they do great with attendance. The fan base is very engaged. Dynamic stadium right in the middle of town.
When I was traveling with the Red Sox, we played them. That was like one of the most frequent trips we made all year. Toronto is one of, if not the top travel city of all the major league destinations. Great city. Stadium is a little bit antiquated, but they pack the house and it gets electric.
It's right there in the middle, right?
The Red Sox played the Blue Jays on Canada Day. And I thought that was one of the more interesting baseball experiences I've ever had. Everybody wore red, and the energy was electric. I remember Justin Smoke hit this bomb off Rick Porcello, and it felt in the replay booth, it's this old stadium, and the whole stadium was vibrating during that. And so really good atmosphere around the ballpark. Just a really cool city.
It's summer.
Overall. It's summer in Toronto, so you're enjoying that. No, Toronto's just a true metropolitan city. We're like super eclectic. The food is great. The hotel you stay at is great. The area. Toronto is Americans can sleep on Toronto because it's just another country, so it's easier to think that about. But anybody who plays there likes it, apart from the taxes component that they could run into, as well as like you're crossing the border. So it's a lot. The major league travel is just a little more nuanced to get in and out, especially players that have visas and things like that. And Montreal used to be one of the favorite travel cities too. So I think getting to experience Canada and introducing Canada and they have a whole nation behind them. It's a lot of people that live in all these.
Great attendance.
And they draft Canadian players. They try to sign Canadian players. So they're their country's team in the truest sense. And,
unfortunately for the University of Miami.
Yeah, and owned by a communications group that can treat the Blue Jays like a public trust, like we always talk about.
Yeah.
It's like it's big company that can fund the Blue Jays in such a way where they can go out and sign George Springer, go out and extend Vladimir Guerrero. Like they can do those things as well. So it's good. I think I say this a lot, but baseball's better when teams like this are good.